Today, we are talking about an absolute giant of literature. I mean, a name so big it's basically become synonymous with the English language itself, William Shakespeare. But here's the thing that's always baffled people, the big puzzle. How? How did a guy from a small town, the son of a glove maker, with a solid but not exactly world-class education, become arguably the greatest writer ever? Well, that's the mystery we're going to try and solve together today. So here he is, the man himself, William Shakespeare, lived from 1564 to 1616. And you gotta remember, this was a wild time of change in England. He was right there in the middle of it, a bridge between two different eras.
Okay, so let's get into it. To even begin to understand the genius, you've got to understand the man. And his story doesn't start in some fancy palace or bustling city. It starts in a quiet little market town.
This right here is Stratford-upon-Avon. Shakespeare was born in that very house on April 23, 1564. Now, his dad was a glove maker, a pretty successful local businessman, and his mom came from a family with a bit more land and money. So, a solid middle-class start in life. He went to the local grammar school, which would have meant a tough education, heavy on Latin and classic stories. It was a good education, for sure, but it wasn't Oxford or Cambridge, where a lot of the other big shot playwrights went. And that fact just makes his talent seem even more insane, right? So, fast forward to 1592. He's in London, and he's already making waves as both an actor and a writer. Then, disaster strikes. The plague closes the theaters. So what does he do? He just pivots to writing poetry for a wealthy patron. No big deal. And by 1599, he's a part owner of his acting company, and they build the legendary Globe Theatre. I mean, talk about a meteoric rise. So, how did he pull it off? What was his secret weapon? Well, this brings us to the first huge clue in the whole mystery of his genius, his unbelievable, game-changing command of the English language. See, Shakespeare didn't just use English. In a way, he was building it. You have to picture the theater back then. Almost no sets, no fancy lighting. His words had to do all the work. They had to be the scenery, they had to be the special effects, and they had to tell you what a character was thinking deep down inside. And just look at the tools he had at his disposal. We're talking about a guy who literally invented words we still use, like eyeball and swagger. He was a total master of using rhythm, that famous da-doom, da-doom, da-doom heartbeat rhythm, to ramp up the tension or create a mood. He could create a whole complex person just with the words they spoke. But, having a great toolkit is one thing. It's what you build with it that counts. So let's look at his plays and see how all that language wizardry turned into pure theatrical gold. And the man had range. He wasn't a one-trick pony. He absolutely dominated the three big genres of his day. Histories that looked back at England's past, comedies that were all about love and laughter, and of course, the tragedies that explored the darkest parts of human nature. His history plays were a huge deal. They weren't just history lessons, they were practically national epics. For a lot of the audience, these plays were their history books. He was basically helping to create the whole idea of England and giving people a shared story and identity. That's powerful stuff. And then you've got his comedies. We're talking about timeless rom-coms like A Midsummer Night's Dream or Much Ado About Nothing, full of witty banter, hilarious mix-ups, and a little bit of magic. And he had this amazing formula that just worked. Step 1, you've got young lovers who can't stand their parents. Step 2, throw in a ton of chaos, usually with people in disguises and a case of mistaken identity. Then, after all that craziness, everything gets sorted out, and boom, everybody gets married in the end. It's a formula Hollywood still uses today. But where he really tore up the rulebook was with tragedy. See, classical tragedies were all about heroes battling a fate they just couldn't escape. Shakespeare changed the game. In his plays, the hero's downfall isn't just about fate. It's about a fatal flaw inside them. It's Macbeth's ambition or Hamlet's indecision. Their own choices bring them down. They are responsible.
And that's what gives these plays their incredible power. Plays like Hamlet or Macbeth aren't just sad stories. No way. They are these deep, profound dives into power, jealousy, grief. I mean, the very core of what it means to be a person.
So the kid from Stratford takes over London stages, reinvents the language, and becomes a master storyteller. But there's one last piece to this puzzle. How did his work actually survive to become this timeless, untouchable legacy? Well, in 1616, Shakespeare died. He was only 52 years old. He'd already retired from the chaos of London and gone back home to Stratford, a rich and famous man. The glovemaker's son had made it. His life had come full circle.
But the whole story almost ended right there. Back then, plays weren't considered great literature. They were just entertainment. Most were performed for a bit and then just disappeared. But 7 years after Shakespeare died, 2 of his friends from his acting company did something amazing. They gathered up all his plays and published them in one massive book, the First Folio. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this is one of the most important things that has ever happened in the history of literature. Without that book, we would have lost about half of his plays forever. No Macbeth, no Twelfth Night, no The Tempest. They would have just vanished. We owe pretty much everything to that one single book. Which really just leaves us with one last question. The real mystery isn't just how he did it all, it's why it still works. 400 years later, how can a line he wrote perfectly describe exactly how you're feeling today, whether it's love or loss or anger? Well, I guess that's just the enduring, unbelievable magic of Shakespeare.